Hi, I'm Anna E. Richardson, Minister of Justice. Here on St. Martin, we shine a light on domestic violence and recharge our focus on eradicating this peril from our community. Because the danger of this violence is so wide and detrimental to our community, it calls for a collaborative effort from our society. And so, I have invited a few professionals who are fierce advocates in this fight to help me express how destructive this act of violence is for our St. Martin and steps we are taking to eliminate it.
A family that has experienced domestic violence is a family in crisis.
And is a family who has had their human rights violated.
Domestic violence disrupts our society and threatens
our community's sense of peace and safety.
Persons who have escaped domestic violence have a long road ahead to build back their confidence.
And rebuild their self-esteem and sense of value. In doing so, they are empowered never to be a victim again.
A child who is a victim of violence and abuse within the home is an insecure child and is a child
who has also had their human rights violated.
A family who has experienced domestic violence by the hands of a man in the family
walks on eggshells because they are afraid of him.
And he should seek help and support immediately. It is also important to note that men
can also be victims of abuse from their female partners and need support too.
The LGBTQ community also suffers the effects of domestic and relational violence.
And so, our society is taking important steps to support
and protect victims.
Rehabilitate perpetrators.
We are bringing justice to our vulnerable citizens. We are taking a stand against domestic violence, for it will not be tolerated in our community.
Because abuse is a crime, not an excuse.
This public service announcement has been spearheaded by the Ministry of Justice on behalf of the government of St. Martin and all the committed stakeholders who serve this community by fighting against domestic violence in all its forms.
Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Rolika Roach and welcome to the Live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Anna Richardson, to address you. Minister Richardson, you have the virtual floor.
Good morning, Prime Minister, colleague ministers, members of the press, Ms. Roach, and the listening and viewing public. Firstly, as this is my first time back at press briefing since the new year, I'd like to take this time to wish everyone a safe and prosperous 2021 and beyond. I'd like to thank the Department of Communications for your assistance and hard work with the production of the domestic violence awareness videos. Both the video that just debuted and the previous one that aired during the month of November that gave at least 2 victors the opportunity to share details about being victimized to emerging victoriously and with the courage and the will to have a voice for others. A special thanks to the Council of Ministers, civil servants, specialists, and activists that made the video what it is. Domestic violence is affecting our community and the world at large at an alarming rate, and for this reason, we are asking that the video be shared consistently throughout the year. Though the awareness of domestic violence and gender-based violence will be highlighted stronger during the month of November, The Ministry of Justice and its partners intend to be very active throughout the year, spreading awareness, improving security, and taking steps to ensure that perpetrators understand that abuse is a crime, not an excuse. I'd like to now give a few updates with regards to the Ministry of Justice. Last week, I held a meeting with Mr. Raphael Boseman and the Secretariat Director, Ms. Charna Pompier of the Integrity Chamber, together with my support staff, after sending an invitation to the board. The integrity is considered one of the most important values that underpins the activities of the Ministry of Justice and its personnel. I recognize how it can affect public trust, not only in this ministry, but also in the entire government apparatus. As such, in 2021, I tend to pay closer attention to integrity issues and identify strategies on how the integrity standards can be raised throughout the Ministry of Justice and beyond. With regards to permits for events, I would like to take this opportunity to remind event organizers and promoters of events that they must be in possession of a proper documentation or the proper documentation, such as an approved permit to host an event. We understand the efforts and work it takes to organize an event, and for that reason, we are reminding you that the importance of ensuring that the law is followed as it is prescribed. The request for a permit to host an event must be submitted to CAPSM at least 2 weeks prior to the event, and only with an approved permit should the event be promoted and hosted. Should one not receive an approved permit, you can run the risk of the event being intercepted and canceled by law enforcement. I have received some inquiries regarding the policy that governs applications for residence permits. The policy has not changed, nor is there a new policy. In fact, the same policy being applied has been in place since 2012. One of the requirements to be able to obtain a residency permit, whether it be temporary or permanent, is proof of self-sustainability. That means to acquire a residence permit, a person must show proof of sufficient means of income. The policy states that an applicant who is applying for themselves with no dependents must show proof of the minimum gross income of 2,000 guilders per month. I'm very proud of the implementation of the Compliance Department at the Department of Immigration and Border Protection Services, for it is within this team thoroughly reviewing applications, it became evident that the policy and the law in itself was not being previously enforced as it should. By extension, quite a bit of unlawful practices have been uncovered and are being tackled. Ms. Roach, that will be it for now, and I remain available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Richardson, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, to address you. Minister Samuel, you have the virtual floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you. Good morning, PM. Good morning to my colleague ministers. Good morning to the media and to the people of St. Martin. I would like to take this opportunity to ask you, when was the last time you took a moment to think about the word education? What does it mean for you? Have you completed your education in the way you wanted? Students leave St. Martin every year to go abroad to further their education. Are these students returning to St. Martin after completing their studies? This question of students returning home was a topic of discussion last week when the countries of Curaçao, Aruba, the Netherlands, and St. Martin had their consultative meeting to discuss different matters. St. Martin students in the Netherlands who are recipients of study financing are guided during their first and second year of their studies by a group of well-qualified persons. These guidance counselors are responsible for monitoring and checking on our students. On Sunday, January 17, 2021, upcoming, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., a virtual meeting will take place between these persons and St. Martin, the guidance counselors, and the work they do together with the Division of Study Financing will be some of the discussion points of the virtual meeting. The link will be made available during the week so that all who want to take part or listen to the meeting can do so. Today, I would certainly like to congratulate the University of St. Martin for being awarded the seat of a research chair that will be shared with the University of Aruba and Curaçao. This is a great thing for St. Martin and for the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. St. Martin is being supported and USM is being supported by the ministry in order to make sure that this event, this experience, be a successful one for all who would be involved. I would like to inform that the 2021 Study Financing and NEPA Study Allowance application period has begun. The application period for study financing from the Government of St. Martin for the scholastic year 2021-2022 will end on Friday, February 12, 2021. To apply for study financing, the applicant must first request a crib number from the tax inspectorate, go to www.studyfinancing.x6 or www.studyfinancing-sxm.com. Review the 2021 study financing priority list, read the terms, conditions, and criteria for study financing, or view videos of the study financing webinar posted on our Facebook page. Fill in the online application form. You must create an account and verify it. Upload the following required documents. 1, proof of Dutch nationality from the census office or a copy of the passport, a detailed registration form from the census office, a valid health certificate as proof of good health, a declaration from the Inspectorate of Taxes supporting parental or personal income for 2019, most recent grades or report cards, transcript or high school diploma, admission letter from the educational institution, upload recent passport picture. Please note that documents must not be older than 3 months. Only applicants with at least 6 or 7 of the supporting documents will be accepted. No applications will be accepted after Friday, February 12, 2021. For more information, please contact us via email info@studyfinancing.sx or WhatsApp or call via telephone number 1721-527-3840. I thank you, and I will await any questions, Rolika.
Thank you, Minister Samuel, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, the Honorable Egbert Duran, to address you. Minister Duran, you have the virtual floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Good morning, Prime Minister, colleague ministers, members of the media, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin. Today, I wish to update you on the following points that are prioritized by the Ministry of Romi. The Department of Domain Affairs has worked diligently to minimize the administrative backlog, among other pending tasks. The department has recently closed off the year with the highest long lease collection total over the past 5 years. The sum collected for 2020 was over 5 million guilders. I would like to commend the team of the department for their hard work and the admirable results they were able to provide. On Thursday, January 7, 2021, the Department of Inspection, together with the Department of Infrastructure Management, oversaw the removal of multiple containers and abandoned scrap clutter at the proposed Ring Road area. The containers were placed in a secured location. For more information how to retrieve these items, please contact the Department of Infrastructure Management. This is all in efforts to clean up our capital and maintain the beauty. The Department of Infrastructure Management held an information session for solid waste collection, public tender 2021-2026 on Friday, January 8th, which was attended by more than 30 companies, and several other companies attended via the online session. The public is hereby reminded that all bids must be submitted in a closed envelope at the Office of the Ministry of VROMI of Infrastructure Management on Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021 at 10 a.m. All participants should be present and submit their bids prior to the time. However, please take note that due to COVID-19 procedures, tender submission is subject to change, which you will be informed accordingly. Another point I would like to give an update to the public on is that I've had several meetings with former GB management, also with current GB management, and also the infrastructure department regarding the streetlights issue that we are facing. Over the last couple of weeks, I would say we summed up about 8 emails that we received via MinVROMI. They're busy now doing an assessment, and this is a project that has also been in the pipeline at the World Bank with GB. Nevertheless, we've been seeking solutions in terms of expediting this process if need be. What I would like to communicate to the public is continue to communicate to the email address minvromi@stmartingov.org and identify these locations, and I will have the Department of Infrastructure Management follow up with such requests. I would also like to remind the public that the Department of New Projects has published the tender for the demolition works of the former Phillipsburg Jubilee Library. An information meeting is scheduled for February 3rd, 2021 at 10 a.m. at the Government Administration Building, followed by a site visit. The tender date is scheduled for Wednesday, February 24th, 2021 at 10 a.m. as well. For further information, please contact the Department of New Projects, telephone number 1721-54-20349, 54-20349. I hereby conclude my opening statements. Rolika, and I look forward to any questions members of the media might have. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Sylvia Jacobs, to address you. Prime Minister Jacobs, you have the virtual floor.
Thank you so much, Rolika. Good morning to my colleague ministers, members of the press, of course to you, Ms. Roach, and our listening and viewing public. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to update that as you may have read in our papers or seen in our online media, that last week meetings were held with the 3 ministers, Finance, Justice, VROMI, and myself, along with our support staff, with the State Secretary of the Interior and Kingdom Relations, Mr. Knops, and his delegation in a series of meetings held here at the Government Administration Building. These meetings to update and follow up on agreements made prior to the end of 2020. The State Secretary provided an update on the status of the CoHo draft legislation law, which has still not been finalized and is still awaiting advice from the Kingdom Council of State, known as the RVS, Raad van State. The State Secretary also confirmed that St. Martin's questions, which had been brought forward in our negotiations, were added to those of the other Caribbean Kingdom partners and will be taken along for response. The timeline expected moving forward for the handling will also include that this trajectory, that all parliaments within the kingdom will be able to deliberate on this law before it gets approved. So there is still opportunity for each parliament within the kingdom. This includes St. Martin having the opportunity to dissect and deliberate on this law. Throughout the negotiation process, my cabinet has sent all documents pertaining to St. Martin's country reform package to the Parliament of St. Martin, and of course, updated when they were updated in the Kingdom Council of Ministers on December 18th, the one that was presented on December 18th. I have also kept the members of Parliament updated on a regular basis about the conditions agreed upon for the second and third tranches of liquidity support. Both delegations were able to convey support and eagerness to begin this process, as this emphasizes that the ministries and the departments, including all workers involved, would then have the opportunity to have input into the execution thereof. The ministers were also able to outline their hopes and intentions for the projects that could fall under or would fall under the country package. The structure that will manage the execution of the country package was approved by the Council of Ministers. This structure consists of the Secretary General's platform, as well as a monitoring committee, the temporary working organization of St. Martin, to monitor the progress of the structural reforms, as well as to inform and update the Council of Ministers on said progress. Of course, each Secretary General is expected to, on a regular basis, meet with and update their particular minister on the parts that fit within their ministry. The TWO, the Tijdelijke Werkorganisatie or Temporary Work Organization representatives, and the monitoring committees, as well as each ministry represented by an SG and a team, met with the representatives of the Netherlands in meetings on Friday, Monday, and up until yesterday. So that is with the Secretaries General of General Affairs, VROMI, Justice, TIAT, as well as the Council of Ministers. Yesterday morning, the Secretary General's platform, the monitoring committee, and the Dutch representatives met and received feedback on the meetings held with each ministry. I was also given a debriefing by both the Secretary General and the Temporary Work Organization of the Netherlands as to what had been discussed, what challenges appear, etc. What is clear is that we are quite aware, and now all SGs and their teams are aware, that the execution agenda, which is due on April 1st, has to be done with complete input and priorities of St. Martin. That has been re-emphasized in my debriefing yesterday, and as such, I encourage all Secretaries General, all members of the different ministries that are involved in these deliberations, and I thank the support of the Secretariat, which is mainly Buck and several members, or one or two members from the ABB Foreign Affairs, for your support to the SG platform in this regard, and I look forward to the periodic updates, which will give us an indication as to the feasibility of meeting these agreements, as well as keeping the process in check. I also thank the monitoring committee members, Ms. Candia Joseph, Ms. Julissa France, and of course our very own SG, Mr. Hensley Plantain. Thank you, and I continue to look forward to being able to update the public of St. Martin as we move forward in putting the necessary changes in place that St. Martin has also identified as they overlap completely these priorities with our own governing program, as well as with the National Development Vision that has been approved in our Council of Ministers. I'd like to continue now, since our Minister of TIAT is absent and she is the interim Minister of VSA. And as such, I will bring forth the updates from the Ministry of VSA has been provided. As of January 12th, there are currently 14 persons who tested positive and 15 who have recovered, bringing the total active cases to 102. The total number of confirmed cases now stands in total since last year, the inception, at 1,589. CPS is monitoring 101 persons in home isolation at this time, and only one patient is hospitalized, and our total numbers of deaths remain at 27. We thank God for that, as well as for the low numbers in our hospitalization cases. I'm also happy to update that the CPS has begun a free drive-through testing for COVID-19 over the past 2 days, starting Monday, the 11th, and there has been a turnout of about 55 persons tested per day. CPS still expects that a rise within infections will be noted, as we are now doing also more testing. and that the current numbers are well within management levels, and we believe that these numbers are remaining low because there seemed to have been a low turnout for testing post-holidays. However, seeing that we've opened up the drive-through and 55 persons per day have been tested, we are expecting that we can expect some higher numbers in the coming days and weeks. Also noteworthy to mention is that persons can opt to also be tested with the rapid antigen test. So all persons are being tested with PCR testing, but as a matter of us running our checks and balances on the validity of the antigen test, those that are willing can also be swabbed for the antigen test, wherewith we can measure it against the PCR test to see its accuracy. I'd like to update as well that CPS and the Department of Public Health has been preparing for the COVID-19 vaccine and the rollout thereof. Based on meetings held with the Ministry of VWS in the Netherlands, so the Ministry of Health and Welzijn, it is estimated that St. Martin will receive the vaccines starting in mid-February. The bi-weekly Kingdom Ministerial Consultation on Health will take place on Friday, January 14th, and we will be able to update the general public as well as ensure what more concrete plans after that meeting. However, I can update that the RIVM will be planning a visit to St. Martin during the week of January 18th to discuss vaccine storage, the cold chain management, and training necessary for the rollout. In the interim, CPS and Public Health are in the process of finalizing the COVID-19 implementation plan, which includes the human resource that is needed to administer the vaccination among the population. In addition, an advice has been sent forward outlining the priority groups to receive the initial vaccines. Once this priority group has been confirmed, CPS and Public Health will continue to work with media partners to develop key public messaging to inform the general public and assure on our strategy. As such, I would like to continue to ask the people of St. Martin to ensure that you are moving smart if you are out in public. It is our behavior that will stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus. It is still largely community spread, so you must, as individual, take care for your own health as well as that of your family, especially if you are in contact with vulnerable persons within your family. Do not become complacent and let your guard down. Continue to practice good hygiene, get healthy in terms of what you're putting in your bodies, exercise regularly, ensure that you're getting enough rest as well, and maintain proper mental and emotional health, while keeping yourself and your loved ones safe as we continue to recover and rebuild our economy. Remember, the goal of this government is to ensure that we can remain open, and as such, I ask all those businesses out there that are relying on public consumption, public coming to your venues, to ensure that you are also upholding the protocols under which you are allowed to reopen. The inspectorates will be coming out and continue to come out and enforcing the regulations as such, and therefore, in order to maintain that you can continue to do business, please follow our protocols and ensure that the safety of your workers as well as the persons who are at your location are safe at all times. Let us continue to work together, and Rolika, I remain available for whatever questions that may come forth from the ministry, from the media, sorry.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, for your opening remarks. If you have just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. Thank you for joining us. We now move on to the question and answer session, but before we begin, I would like to inform that the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Artwell Edion, is present, however, will not be making any opening statements, but is available for any questions the media may have. The floor is open, and I would now like to invite Bibi Shah of SMN News. You have the virtual floor.
Good morning, everyone. My question is to the Prime Minister, and it might sound a little bit funny, Prime Minister Jacobs, but I think we, the people of St. Martin, we all need an answer to this. while your government and the ministers and everyone else have been discussing the conditions and the CoHO law that is to be implemented in St. Martin, we have the Integrity Chamber established after 2017 when we could not get financing or help post-Irma. To date, can you tell us what exactly has the Integrity Chamber done? The last thing I heard is that they're busy with meetings, with their stakeholders meeting, introducing themselves. Prime Minister, how many years does it take for an Integrity Chamber to get acquainted with the people of St. Martin? How many years more do we have to wait? And why not think about canceling this Integrity Chamber since we are going with the CoHO?
Good morning to you, and thank you for that question. The Integrity Chamber was something that Parliament approved, was moved forward. Everyone knows the history with that. I believe when we came in late 2019, early 2020, it was finally finalized, the board members, etc., screening processes and the like. So the Secretary General is a local young lady, and they have been working, their rollout plan was, let's say, thwarted by COVID-19. So that is one of the main reasons that, let's call it, they have not been able to move forward with their plans. Basically, it is to give advice related to integrity challenges. They have met with the government organization, with different ministers, with secretaries general. We have already been working on certain and we've had, let's say, policies within government organization. So they are looking at those to ensure that they are up to par and advising on that. And of course, anytime they offer an advice, it is published publicly. So they have, I believe, already issued 1 or 2 advices. But similar to when the Ombudsman came into being, it's an entity outside of government, but of course connected. And we can see that people understand the role and function of that through their, let's call it, PR. And so that was one of the things. Yes, it was established under duress. Many of us did not agree with it. And we felt that we had enough checks and balances. But until, let's call it Parliament or any other entity with that purview decides differently, it is an established Chamber of St. Martin with goals that align with ours as well. So we are aiming to improve our integrity here as government, improve our service, and as such, we follow the recommendations as much as possible, given our limited resources from the Ombudsman, and in this case, even from the General Audit Chamber, Raad van Advies, and the like, in as much as we can. And again, we have a local representative in the person of Mr. Raphael Boseman, that is making sure that St. Martin's position remains first and foremost within those discussions. And as such, our meetings has been fruitful, and I look forward to ways in which we can collaborate. It is not anything about being imposed at this stage. At this stage, it is about collaborating to ensure that there is a high level of integrity in government as well as throughout operations on St. Martin. So how much longer it will take before you see actual advices, I think you can better ask the Integrity Chamber. But as far as we're concerned, getting our own Integrity Bureau back to where it was, ensuring that we have the persons of trust within each ministry, that civil servants can report integrity breaches to, and having a policy in place for that is the responsibility of government. So we are working on that internally, and if necessary, getting advice from them. I'm hoping that clarifies things. So they have been doing what they've been charged to do.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, B.B. Shah, for that question. I would now like to invite Stephen Cerillion of PJ82 Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you, Prime Minister. Good morning to you, ministers. Good morning to you, my colleagues in the media as well. My question is for the Prime Minister. It's a two-part question. Prime Minister, as it pertains to the Social Economic Council, last week you stated that the national decree was to be approved in the Council of Ministers and then sent to the governor for signing. Can you confirm if indeed this was done as disclosed? And B, you also mentioned that the SEA consists of 3 persons from the employers' organization, 3 persons from the employees' organization, and 3 independent experts. Can you say as to who those persons are?
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, indeed. We had planned it for our Tuesday Council of Ministers, but was not able to handle it in that meeting. We did have an extraordinary meeting on Thursday last, which approved the advice as well as the national decrees to appoint the different members. I would prefer not to divulge these names until the national decrees have been signed by His Excellency the Governor and myself. And once that has been established by national decree, then those names will be divulged to the general public. So it has been done last Thursday.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Stephen, for the question. I would now like to invite Lyndon Brown of BCN TV. You have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and to the ministers that are present here today. Question to the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance, I know you've met Mr. Conops, and so far what we overheard that the World Bank is not a problem for monies, but there are some technicality. In other words, for St. Martin, when it reached to St. Martin, there are technicalities, according to Mr. Conops. Minister, can you explain if there is any hiccups? I mean, it seemed like Mr. Conops wants the government of St. Martin to say, as he mentioned, take it or leave it. Sign right away, sign all the conditions that we require. And because St. Martin is not doing that, he mentioned technicality. You was there, Minister. Can you expound? Can you weigh in on this word, technicality?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Brown. To be honest, I'm not too clear on what your question is. And in the meeting with State Secretary Conops, we did not discuss World Bank or any technicalities. So furthermore, I can't answer your question because I don't really understand your question and the connection with World Bank and the meeting we had the other day. That'll be all, Rebecca.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Mr. Brown, you are muted, but seeing that we do have less than 30 minutes and other media partners will move ahead. I would now like to invite Jeffrey, Dr. Sock-Sockern of Island 92 Radio. You have the floor.
Good morning, Rebecca. Good morning to everyone. Prime Minister Jacobs, I'm hoping that you might be able to add some clarity to this for us. We've now seen the Canadian government is requiring PCR testing for anyone returning to Canada in addition to quarantine once they arrive. The United States just announced yesterday that they will require viral tests that prove whether or not you have a negative viral test before you arrive back in the United States for all international travelers by plane. I think it is no surprise to any of us here that tourism is what drives our economy, especially what little tourism we have right now. I think we're all very grateful for it. The question really is, do we have the capacity to test our tourists before they leave? It has to be done before in 72 hours prior to their flight time. If we don't have the capacity, are we planning to bump things up to make sure that we can meet the demand? And does this Council of Ministers really, does this Council of Ministers stand behind doing whatever we need to do to make sure that we can meet the demand to continue the economic engine spinning? Thank you, PM.
Good morning. Yes, indeed, we've been notified, not formally, but of course, we have our informal means of communication within the Council of Ministers, and from our Minister of TIAT, we were informed that American Airlines was also requesting that as of, I believe, January 26th or 8th. Anyway, towards the end of January, they will be expecting or only accepting return or visit to the US with a PCR test or a negative test. As such, as you know, we have received more tests. We are not challenged at the moment with the number of tests, and that's why we're able to do the drive-throughs. And we will continue to do all that is necessary to ensure that the ability is there for what is necessary for any returning tourists as well. It will be a challenge, of course, and so we have 2 weeks to prepare for that.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Dr. Sock, for the question. We now move on to the second round of questions. Bibi Shaw, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. My question to the Minister of Justice, Ms. Anna Richardson. Minister, in your opening statement, you spoke about the inquiries about the residency permit policy. Can you elaborate and tell me over the past, you can say 9 years, because you said 2012 the policy was instituted, who exactly was not in keeping with this policy? Is it the ministry or is it the applicant? Who was not following, the policy? You said the policy is not being enforced. On whose behalf, whose part? Where was the lacking taking place? And have you since changed persons in the ministry that handles I&D matters, like the renewal of residency permits? For example, those who were not, if it's in the part of I&D that were not enforcing the policy, have those persons been removed and you have new people now that are actually enforcing the policy? And does it mean that persons have to submit a bank account and what they have on the account?
Thank you for your question, Bibi. I have not placed any interest in going back in time and what has and hasn't been done. What I look at is the law in itself and ensure that while I am here as Minister of Justice, I'm ensuring that with the team that I have, like I said, I'm very happy with the compliance team that we have been able to do our due diligence and ensure that the law is being enforced. So who was doing what before is not something that I have put focus into. My goal and strategy is to be able to strengthen individuals. Those who are executing the day-to-day jobs are being done so by guidance, by management. It is my responsibility to ensure that management does it as it is prescribed by the law. No changes has been made, just the enforcement of. So I hope that that answers your question.
Thank you, Minister Richardson, and thank you, Bibi, for the question. I would now like to invite Stephen Cerillion. You have the virtual floor.
Thank you again, Ms. Roach. My question is for the Minister of Justice. Minister, during the press conference last week, the junior minister responsible for kingdom relations, Raymond Knobbs, stated that the complete justice chain has to be reviewed or reformed. Do you agree with that assessment? And if yes, in what areas do you think that that attention is needed to be given in the justice chain?
Thank you for your question, Cerillion. Yes, I believe I have been very vocal about the fact that I recognize that we have a lot of work to do Some persons may take it like it is an aggressive approach that has been stated. Recently, I was told, that the minister has challenges with the staff. It's not a matter of the minister having challenges with the staff, but just that I am aware and I can see that the staff has been doing things a certain way for a period of time, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it was the best way. And it again is my responsibility as minister to be able to evaluate, to ensure that we are executing our services by the letter of the law. And I recognize areas where we need to do that. Now, with that enforcement, you get some persons who feel like it has been done the correct way all along, and it seems a bit strange. And you'll hear things like, well, what is this new policy she's coming with? Really and truly, it is no new policy that the minister is coming with. It is the implementing and enforcement, I should say the enforcement of the laws that are there. With all the regulations and conditions, that even more expectation is there now to ensure that the Ministry of Justice is being ran and managed and executing its services as prescribed by the law. So the work does continue, and I will stay on the same course as I have been, and ensuring that we improve our services as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Richardson, and thank you, Stephen, for the question. I would now like to invite Lyndon Brown. You have the virtual floor.
Question to the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance, the people of St. Martin wants to know how a delegation from Holland came to St. Martin, and he was in the meeting. How this meeting, what have this meeting bring home for the people of St. Martin?
Thank you for your question again, Mr. Brown. The meeting we had with myself and the Prime Minister, State Secretary CoNOPS, and Saskia Delewa was basically an update on the cohort situation. We also signed one of the agreements in terms of that we already signed digitally. We did it again in person. It was a very short meeting, a 45-minute meeting where we had updates. We also discussed parts of some of the challenges that we faced in regards to capacity and so forth in executing our tasks outside of the cohort, and areas that we could use some capacity help. That'd be all, Rolika.
Thank you, Minister Edion, and thank you, Lyndon, for the question. I would now like to invite Jeffrey Sokrin. You have the virtual floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Minister Duran, last week we spoke briefly about you having a meeting with GEBE and chatting with them about their intentions to move forward with a formal solar policy. I'm curious as to how that meeting went, and do you have any news for us about how a solar policy, a green energy policy, might be expected and when it might be expected? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Sock, for your question posed. At this moment, I do not have an update for you with respect to the policy moving forward, but I will have in the near future, and I look forward to updating the general public.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Thank you, Dr. Sock. We now move on to the third and final round of questions. Bibi Shah, you have the virtual floor.
I'm going to try this one, Prime Minister. When are we getting the new Minister of VSA? When will he be swearing in? I can see quite a couple of weeks now. Our Minister of VSA is on vacation, I believe. The acting minister is out, and you have a lot of heavy weight on your shoulders with all these extra ministries. So when are we getting the new minister?
Thank you for that question. I'll go back to saying that actually our minister was out on vacation, and then there was another emergency that extended that. Our current minister of VSA is expected back today and will resume his responsibilities. It is part of the job. All of us have a minister that we replace. And of course, if two of them are out, then it falls on my shoulders. But as you know, I carried that responsibility during the EOC time as well. So I'm no stranger to, and I'm being updated on a regular basis. The process for any new screening, as you know, is completely confidential, and I cannot comment on that at this time.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Bibi, for the question. I would now like to invite Stephen Cerulean. You have the virtual floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. And my final question is for the Prime Minister, if I may piggyback on the question of my colleague. It's almost a year since the Council of Ministers took the oath of office, Prime Minister. We are yet to see the appointment of a Deputy Minister Plenipotentiary in The Hague. What's the holdup there? How soon do we foresee someone being appointed to this position?
Thank you for that question, Stephen, and that piggyback, as you may refer to it as. Indeed, that is also a confidential process, and as such, once it is finalized, then the general public will be made aware and a necessary swearing in will take place. You'll be the first to know.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Stephen, for the question. I would now like to invite Lyndon Brown. You have the virtual floor.
Question to Minister of Justice. Minister of Justice last year, this word gender-based had shown its head up, and now again. Minister, in this aspect, I realize gender-based have a lot of characteristics, but what are you basing that? I realize that you're basing on domestic violence, Minister, but there's a lot of other aspects where gender-based are up its heads, Minister. Can you categorize all aspects, because abuse is abuse across the line, Minister of Justice. And for the past years, there was an area that it is visible, but a lot of people do not want to handle it. So, and I am ready yet to speak about it, Minister, but and what you mentioned this a while ago, gender-based violence, I need to categorize it, Minister, that it is not acceptable.
Mr. Brown, thank you for your question. You would recall that the theme of our campaign last year and continues to be that abuse is a crime. And so let us not per se focus on any specific, but just the fact that abuse is a crime. And it is our goal and a responsibility to be able to do the necessary steps to ensure that all humans, all life, across the board. It's not just humans, because animals are abused and so forth, but we want everyone to appreciate and respect life. Yes? So it's across the board. I hope that helps and answers your question.
Thank you, Minister Richardson, and thank you, Lyndon, for that question. I would now like to invite Jeffrey Sokrin. You have the final question.
Thank you, Roleika. Madam Prime Minister, I know you said this before, and I think I missed it, and I hope you might be able to elaborate or elucidate a little further for me. You said that by mid-February, vaccines are expected to be on island, and that we would see that a plan would be forthcoming about how the vaccination campaign would continue. When can we expect that plan, and when do we have any insights as to the order? Is there anything that you can share with us before that we have the final plan?
Thank you for that question, Sok. What I can update is that, as I mentioned in my update from CPS just this morning, that the advice has been sent on. So that means it's in the organization to get to the minister for approval, and then on to the Council of Ministers for notification and or approval as well. I'm not even sure whether the Council of Ministers has a say in it, but definitely as it has such a wide-reaching effect, the proposal of the CPS and Public Health Department I am sure will come to the Council of Ministers for at least discussion. And as such, we await that. So they have mentioned that they forwarded their advice in terms of the proposed persons to receive the first batch, the priority setting for vaccination. And so that will come to CoM. They are finalizing it in terms of the human resources needed for the rollout. And as I mentioned before, later in January, at some point after the 18th, that the RIVM is coming to do training, the cold chain management, and I mentioned something else that was very technical. Yes, storage. That is as far as I can recall, but that is expected then from the 18th onward to by the time it gets here mid-January, that they get here mid-January, that we are prepared to roll out. This is what it seems like we're going to be able to roll out once mid-February reaches here, because we would have done all the necessary to ensure the proper management of the integrity of the vaccines, prior to being to giving them out. And public health and CPS is also working on its messaging related to this, to sensitize the general public as to, I guess, the level of coverage that you would have with it, what it means to have the vaccination, as you see being done in some of the European and American states, that they're explaining, percentage of coverage and what that means, because there's a lot of confusion as to whether you'll be able to be infected after having the vaccination or not. So we believe it's important to keep the general public updated. And so once we have that information, I'm expecting that by the end of January, we'll be able to give a better view. That's my broad date, based on what is being said in terms of the advice being in the process, etc.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Hope that answers.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Dr. Stock, for the question. Members of the Media Council of Ministers, this does bring us to the question. This does bring us to the end of the question and answer session for today, January 13, 2021. Once again, members of the media, thank you for joining us. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. For rebroadcast, tune in to St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, YouTube channel Government of St. Martin, and St. Martin Cable TV channel 115. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach, and wishing you a pleasant day further.